Hey guys, Maxton here. Welcome back to a new video. Today we are going to talk about how you can manipulate samples. When you use a sample as the base of a beat, it can get repetitive very fast. And to avoid that, you can manipulate the samples. And today I'm going to show you my methods on how I manipulate samples. Okay, let's start by looking for a sample. I think I use this one. So first of all, what we can see right now is that I matched the sample BPM to the BPM in my project. So we are at 113 right now. And the sample is in B flat minor. If your sample is longer, like this one with 16 bars, you could just chop it up and say that you use one for the hook and one for the verse. And if you do it like that, you would already have a bit more variety. Let's just delete this and use the first 4 bars as a base for this sample. If you manipulate the sample, I would always advise you to just keep the base sample as well. So if you want to manipulate it, just hold shift and drag down the sample, click right here and then select make unique. Now you can change up this sample without changing the first one. So the first thing that you can try in order to manipulate your sample is just to pitch it up or down. You could always pitch it around to a different key. But in this case, I mean that you have like a double of it that's an octave above or an octave below. I think I'll pitch up the first sample since the bass melody is already pretty low. Pitch it up, just double click on your sample. And right here under the section time stretching, you can turn up the pitch knob. So this is the first variation that I would always try, just to pitch around the sample. Let's listen to the original again. And this is the one that I pitched up. You may need to cut some frequencies later with an EQ, since the sample can sound pretty harsh in the higher frequencies when you pitch it up. Okay, so I'll put this to the side and the first one as well, and let's manipulate another one. If you want to manipulate your sample further, I would advise you to assign it to a mixer track. For that, just double click your sample. And right up here you can click on track and it will automatically get assigned to a mixer track. The first thing I would add now is just an EQ and play around with the high and low frequencies. If you don't want to select everything manually in your EQ, you can just click on the presets up here and select what you like. Now I cut everything above 5K and below 500. And this could work very well for intro, for example, just to introduce the sample. Okay, let's save this as a separate one. Let's get our first one again and make it unique. From now on, I will just advise every new sample to a separate mixer track, since we can't do much more without any plugins. The next plugin you can look into when manipulating samples is Destructor. It's pretty new and I don't use it a lot, but it's still a good plugin. Right here you have 4 different sections with distortion, a filter, a chorus and a speaker effect. I'll just turn off all 4 for now and enable them after each other so you can hear what they do. The distortion is a bit harsh, so I'll just turn it down a little. And I really like the chorus, so I'll turn up the feedback a little more. This is just one of the plugins where you have to play around a little bit until you get something you like. You can also just play around with the presets. And you should maybe turn down your volume a little bit when you try the presets. Okay, so let's get to the plugins that are actually very amazing at manipulating samples. The first plugin I'll show you is not a stock plugin, but it's still free and you should really check it out if you haven't already. If you use this plugin, you should just export your manipulated sample, because otherwise you will hear those dust particles if you decide to use it all the time in the project. And it's just annoying. So let's turn the dust down. As you can see up here you can select different decades and that just changes the EQ. This 1950s one sounds pretty good right now. Another nice feature is the spin down effect, since you could automate it in order to stop the beat before a hook, for example. Another great feature is the warp right here. The more you turn it up, the more the sample will be a little bit off key. If you do too much, it will just sound weird. But if you just do a little bit, it sounds pretty good. And the best plugin by far, in my opinion, to manipulate samples is Grow Speed. If you don't want to get deeper into this plugin, you can just select presets, but there's a lot to do and there are pretty much endless possibilities with this one. As you can see, we have two sections right here. One is for the timing and one is for the volume. And if I just play the sample now, you can see where we are. So right now nothing's happening, but if I select the gate, for example, you can hear that we only have volume when we are up here and not down here. By the way, you can also just sidechain with Growthbeat for EDM drums, for example, if you want to. I'll come back to the volume tab later, but let's talk about the really spicy part, and that's the time tab. It's pretty difficult to explain what's happening exactly, but you have basically some kind of spin back that puts the sample back the further you drag the line down. You have some very simple ones that still sound pretty good. Just by changing one thing right here at the back, you can really get a huge impact. For example, this would be a spin back effect. But if you put this down way further and make it linear again, you would just have a reverse effect. So I'll just stick with basic 10 right now. Let's get back into the volume editing. I kind of like this rhythm, but I'll turn down the volume a little bit more. So we just have it a little bit in the background. And the last and most advanced thing I sometimes do is to put it into SliceX or Fruity Slicer. For that, just open up Fruity Slicer and right here in your mixer track, go to all, so you can also select your bass sample. And now you can just drag and drop your bass sample into Fruity Slicer. All you have to do in the program is to check that the BPM matches, and you may need to turn up the attack and the decay a little bit so you have a cleaner chop. I don't like it if it's chopped too much, so you can just click right here and select beat, for example. And now you can just play around with the different chops until you come up with a new sample or melody. So this is what I came up with. And now we already got 7 different sample variations just from one sample.